Welcome to Gracefully Graying. I am co-founder Lori Bloom. Explore a platform of tips, trends, news, and informative discussions for you and your loved ones. Whether you're 50 and over or way over, find us on gracefullygraying.com, YouTube, and social media. Enjoy this live stream discussion.
Welcome to Gracefully Graying. I'm Henry Gornbein, attorney and co-founder of Gracefully Graying. Today on Gracefully Graying, we will be discussing the Parkinson Voice Project's campaign to reach America with my guest, the executive director, Samantha Elandary. Samantha, welcome to Gracefully Graying.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for everything that you do. I love your program and your site, and it's so helpful to many people. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, you're doing such an amazing job. And why don't we start there with telling our viewers a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Well, I am a speech language pathologist, but originally I was going to be an English teacher. I was going to the University of North Texas, and I was an English major. I needed to select a minor. I was born with a cleft palate, so went through a lot of speech therapy as a child and growing up. And so I thought, well, I'll take some classes in speech language pathology. And I loved it, did very well in the classes. So I went on and got my master's, and then I started my career working in a hospital, working with many different patients, but I did have the opportunity to start working with people with Parkinson's. This was around 1997. I loved working with people with Parkinson's. It was amazing because you had people who were diagnosed with this progressive degenerative disorder, incurable, yet they were responding so well to speech therapy. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize with Parkinson's, is that Parkinson's is a movement disorder. It is battled by moving, and people with Parkinson's can get better. So I want all of your viewers to know that Parkinson's responds very well to speech exercise and to physical exercise. But in 1998, Medicare came out with the Medicare therapy caps. And so a lot of hospitals were cutting their services, including those to Parkinson's. And so I actually left the hospital and started treating patients from my home. And then it took me 6 years to start Parkinson Voice Project. People with Parkinson's need continuous therapy and exercise. And that makes it kind of special, compared to other disorders. And that just wasn't something that was going to be available in the Medicare world. So we need the nonprofit sector to come in and help.
Samantha, what is the incidence of Parkinson's?
Parkinson's affects 1 in 100 adults over the age of 60. There are an estimated 6 million people worldwide living with Parkinson's, but that number is very conservative. We are certain there are millions more with it that perhaps have not been officially diagnosed, or perhaps are attributing their symptoms to maybe just getting older and don't realize that it's Parkinson's yet.
How did you become involved with the Parkinson Voice Project?
Well, I actually started the organization in December of 2005. A key part of managing Parkinson's is not only working with a therapist one-on-one, that's very important, but maintenance. So somebody goes through speech therapy, and we developed a program at Parkinson Voice Project called Speak Out. It's an incredible program where in a matter of a few days, people who were speaking in a soft, gravelly, breathy voice that was difficult to hear and understand, within a few days, they're speaking better. Our program is based on speaking with intent, but the one-on-one therapy is not enough. Our program puts a high emphasis on maintenance, and that's why I needed to start Parkinson Voice Project, the way for people with Parkinson's to maintain their speech and their swallowing for the rest of their life. That is our goal for the rest of their life. The way to do that is through continuous therapy and practice.
Samantha, what does it mean to speak with intent?
Intent is the most important word for people with Parkinson's. And the easiest way to explain it is to think about this. Humans have two motor systems. We have the automatic motor system and the intentional motor system. Automatic, there are so many things that we do every day that are automatic. Imagine if you're walking down the street with a friend eating an ice cream cone. You're not really having to think about lifting your legs to walk or swinging your arms. You're not thinking about raising that ice cream cone to your mouth, and you're laughing and enjoying the conversation with your friend, walking, talking, eating the ice cream cone all at the same time. That is something that would be extremely difficult for somebody with Parkinson's because their automatic motor system is highly dependent on a chemical called dopamine. By the time somebody with Parkinson's notices any symptoms, they have already lost about 80% of their dopamine producing cells. So any motor movements, I want to clarify, any motor movements that used to be automatic will now have to be intentional. The intentional motor system is not as dependent on dopamine. So when people try to talk with intent, speak with intent, when they think about it, when they're eating and chewing their food and swallowing, that's normally automatic. When they really think about it, their movements, their mouth, their tongue, everything moves better and they're able to swallow safer. So intent is extremely important for people with Parkinson's.
So it seems, Samantha, what you have to do is what we normally do if we don't have Parkinson. Intent with Parkinson's mean you have to override things and think things through to make things muscles react, so to speak, I guess.
Absolutely. Yes. It's the backup system. If people with Parkinson's do not learn to use intent, I'm afraid they will have a very difficult time. So many people feel like the Parkinson's is taking control, that they don't have control over their speech or their body, their walking, their balance anymore. But that's not true. They can control it with intent because the intentional motor system is not as dependent on dopamine. The main problem with Parkinson's is the dopamine producing cells start to die or become impaired. So they don't have that system available to them anymore, but they do have this backup system that absolutely works. And we want everybody with Parkinson's to know about it. But using intent, being deliberate and purposeful and concentrating is not enough. People with Parkinson's need constant therapy and exercise for their speech, their swallowing, and the ability to walk.
Why do you think intent is the most important word for people with Parkinson's?
If they don't know about the intentional motor system, they will have a very difficult time. And so we want everybody to know about speaking with intent, and the program that we develop called Speak Out. That's the focus of it. It is about strengthening the muscles, getting the muscles stronger, the muscles we use to take our breath when we talk, and the vocal folds and the lips and the tongue, getting all the muscles stronger so that people can speak with intent. If somebody does not go through the therapy and the exercise, they might understand intent, they might want to speak with intent, but they'll have a very hard time doing it because the muscles have become weak. And so we're always fighting against that. We're doing lots of exercise to keep those muscles strong, and then transitioning speech from an automatic function to an intentional act. All of us have used intent all of our lives. I'm using intent right now during this interview. Think about a job interview. Somebody would be purposeful, try to use good eye contact, smile more, shake with a firm handshake. That's all intent. So it is something that people with Parkinson's can understand and learn how to do. It's just that they need to do it all the time.
Samantha, we've been going through a pandemic. Hopefully it's almost over. What effect did the pandemic have on Parkinson Voice Project?
The pandemic, surprisingly, expanded our reach considerably. Before the pandemic, we could treat anybody who could come to our clinic in Richardson, Texas. Our clinic has not charged for therapy we haven't billed Medicare insurance since 2008. So insurance restrictions, financial limitations was never a problem. That was never a concern for patients who would come to our clinic to receive treatment. But they had to come to our clinic. During the pandemic, we transitioned our clinic into a telepractice. So now we treat people with Parkinson's in person and online. So now what has happened, we can treat any patient, any person with Parkinson's living in the state of Texas. We can treat the homebound. We can treat people who no longer drive. Before people would have to rely on getting a ride, hire a driver, or maybe their kids would have to take off work to bring them to our clinic. That's no longer a barrier to treatment. We can treat people who live in rural areas. So we have patients now from all over Texas, but we are limited to Texas because of our speech pathology license. There is no national license for speech pathology. That's why we can only treat people with Parkinson's. And this is why we have now launched our campaign to reach America, which will make our free program, our treatment, accessible to people with Parkinson's all across the U.S. We're going to replicate our program in university clinics across the U.S. We only need one clinic in every state because thanks to teletherapy, that one clinic, just like we're doing, that one clinic will be able to treat any person with Parkinson's in their state from their university clinic.
Samantha, tell us about Sing Out.
So maintenance of the stronger intentional voice is a real challenge. So in 2006, we started having a show every year. The way that it started, actually, I was in therapy with somebody and he was reading the Gettysburg Address. And, this man, a few weeks prior to this, had a very soft and weak voice. And here he was, he sounded like Abraham Lincoln, 77 years ago. And I was working with him and I had an idea. I thought, wow, how would you like to read that speech for a whole crowd of people? And he goes, no, I don't want to do that. I said, oh, it would be so wonderful. So in 2006, we had our first show, but it was really more of like a family talent show. We had 70 people show up to the first show, and our patients read poems and speeches. We had somebody dress up like Martin Luther King and read I Have a Dream. And it was a lot of fun. Well, the first show, we had 70 people show up. The next year, 140 people showed up. The next year, 200 people. The next year, 400, then 800, then 900. Next thing you know, the show is getting too big. We decide we can't do speeches anymore. We have to start singing. So the show turned into Sing Out. And before the pandemic, we would have 100 people on stage, with 1,000 people in the crowd. But with the pandemic, we couldn't host the in-person shows. So we turned it into a virtual concert. Last year, we had 368 people with Parkinson's and their families. We included the families online. They were singing with intent. And last year's show has had over 11,000 people watch the show. So we're about to have Sing Out this year on November the 5th at 6 p.m. The concert will be hosted on our website, but it'll also be online for people to watch afterwards. But again, that's another example of how the pandemic has helped us to help more people. They're not only speaking with intent, they're singing with intent. And it's a great way to motivate them. It gives them a goal to work towards. It's a way to challenge them. They need to learn the song and practice, practice, practice. And then the end result is going to be something that they can share with their family and their friends, no matter where they live.
Samantha, what is the theme of this year's Sing Out virtual concert?
The theme is everything's coming up roses, which means that everything is better than we could have ever hoped for. Things are looking up. We're helping more people. The pandemic actually accelerated our progress probably by 10 plus years. And it's interesting, had the pandemic only lasted a few months, we would not have this progress. What has made this progress happen is that both patients and clinicians, the medical professionals, have become more tech savvy. Think about it. If the pandemic had only lasted a couple months, that would not have been long enough for people to break down and learn how to use the computer, learn how to go on Zoom, learn how to have family gatherings on Zoom. As bad as the idea of that was, not to be able to come in person, because the pandemic has lasted so long, people were forced to have doctor's appointments online, forced to have therapy sessions, forced to talk with family, learn how to use FaceTime and Zoom and all of that, because otherwise they wouldn't be seeing their families. But because of this, we have been able to successfully transition to a telepractice and help so many people. When it first started, we would call people and say, would you like to be, treated online? Oh, no, I'll just wait for this pandemic to blow over and then I'll just come to the clinic. Well, now, speech therapy works so well online. It's so easy. And we've also developed an e-library that has all of our workbooks, our therapy workbooks, and our flashcards online. So now speech, but I forgot to mention that not only are we treating patients in our clinic, we are training speech language pathologists across the globe to do what we're doing. The difference with the campaign to reach America is that many of the therapists that we're training are working in hospitals or clinics. So they're going to be limited perhaps by Medicare and things like that, the Medicare rules for teletherapy, or, if somebody doesn't have the money or they used up all their Medicare money on physical therapy, they might not be able to be treated. So the campaign to reach America is that there will be a clinic in every state that is not dependent on Medicare and can provide treatment online. So we not only treat patients, but we are training therapists as quickly as we can. We want every person with Parkinson's to have a clinic down the street from them where they can go in person. That would be ideal. But if they don't, if they're homebound, they live in a rural area, they don't drive anymore, they live in a nursing home, they will still be able to be treated because of this campaign.
That's wonderful. Now, can you show us part of last year's virtual choir?
I would love to show you. This is a song. You're going to see the end of it. This is a song that was written for us, for our organization. It's called We Find Our Voice, and it's an inspirational song and just a beautiful way to enforce intent.
It is a beautiful song. Not sure where the volume is, but the song is a beautiful song.
And that is the person who wrote the song who's playing the piano, or piano accompanist.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful song. Samantha, what is a $20 million campaign to reach America?
So we know now that we can treat people with Parkinson's if we have a clinic in every state. But one thing Parkinson Voice Project has not done, I'm pretty proud of this. Our organization in the past 17 years, we've never been in debt. We've never gotten a loan. We have a beautiful clinic. It's a 10,000 square foot clinic that we remodeled. We've always paid cash for everything. Even though we know how to help people all across America, and don't think that we've forgotten about the people that don't live in America, but there's other issues with internet access and things like that that make it much more challenging. But for those patients in America, we know how to treat them. But we need to make sure that we are financially secure to take on this really big project. It's not a hard project, actually. It's very simple. I mean, I could start it tomorrow if we had the $20 million. But the $20 million campaign to reach America is about securing 5 years of operating expenses for our clinic, for the headquarters, okay? And then 5 years for every university clinic that we replicate our program in. We're going to have one in every state. It's going to be called a therapy and research center. They are going to provide our Speak Out program for free online. They're also going to conduct research. Research is so important for helping more people with Parkinson's worldwide. So we are going to give every therapy and research center $10,000 a year with a 5-year commitment. So the 20 million is about securing our clinic, actually 3 parts: endowing our building, securing our operating budget for 5 years, and funding the 50 therapy and research centers for 5 years. And I'm really happy to tell you, our lead gift we received last December, we received $5 million to endow our building. And then since that time, we have raised another $5 million. So we are past the halfway mark. We raised over $10 million towards the $20 million goal. And I'm really excited because the first half is always like torture. And then the second half gets a lot easier.
That's amazing. I mean, just what you're doing is amazing. Now, tell us about your goals for the holiday challenge.
So for the past several years, actually since 2006, we've been fortunate to be able to have a holiday challenge. The holiday challenge is our annual fundraiser. Oh, I need to tell you something else.
Sure.
People are going to be surprised by this. Our nonprofit organization, we don't have a development office. We don't have a fundraising office. We don't have a development director or a director of plan giving or any of that. So our fundraising costs are very small. We raise most of our money each year for our next year's operating budget through what's called the Holiday Challenge. So that we've been fortunate to have a donor every year, different donors every year, who are the holiday challengers. So this year's holiday challenge is: once we raise $1 million by December 31st, one of our patient's family, he and his family, are going to contribute an additional $500,000 to Parkinson Voice Project. Now, this year's holiday challenge, we're not going to limit it to $1 million because we want to start these therapy and research centers as fast as we can. People with Parkinson's need help. They can be helped. We know how to help them, but we need to raise that other $10 million. But once we raise the first million, these donors, the challengers, are going to contribute an additional $500,000. It's going to put us closer to our goal. And it's going to be a challenge, but I mean, this is an urgent problem. People with Parkinson's are losing their speech and their swallowing. They don't know about the intentional motor system. They don't know that they can get better. We can help them. We know exactly how to help them.
You are doing such phenomenal work, really. I'm a huge fan, and what can I say? First of all, before we sign off, there are some final thoughts you would like to share with our viewers, and also as far as people who want to donate, is there some access or a way to do that? Because I know money is important, and what you're doing is just phenomenal.
Well, I encourage your viewers to go to our website, which is www.parkinsonvoiceproject.org. If they go to our website, they will learn about our online speech exercises and our webinars where people can learn about speaking with intent and really learn to understand what the difference is between the automatic and the intentional motor system. We host webinars every month. It's so critical that patients and families understand that. If they go to the donate button at parkinsonvoiceproject.org, they will see a button about the campaign, and that will explain it in a little bit more detail. So I encourage everybody to learn about that. But I guess my final thoughts are to tell your viewers, if they know anybody with Parkinson's, to please tell them to visit the website. We want to help them. We know how to help them. I hate to think that people are struggling with their speech and their swallowing when treatment is available. It absolutely works. I want everybody to know that. It works for just about everybody. I can only think of maybe 3 patients in the past 24 years that I've been doing this where it had gotten so advanced. I mean, most people with Parkinson's can get better.
Amazing. Thank you so much for everything you're sharing with us. And again, the Parkinson Voice Project and Sing Out are such important things. Samantha Elandary, I want to thank you so much for being our guest on Gracefully Graying. And I want to thank our viewers for watching Gracefully Graying.
Thank you so much.